Emma's just doing that. Good morning all, and welcome to today's meeting of the Audit Governance and Ethics Committee meeting. I have no apologies for absence, but I do have a message from Councillor Don Davies that his previous meeting is running a bit late, so he's hoping to join us a little bit later on. So moving straight along, the emergency evacuation procedures, item 2. Some of us are in headquarters and we know our exit points, and I'm hoping that everybody in your homes know also where the doors are by now. Do we have any declarations of interests at all? No, nobody? Okay, that's good. Right, I just have to read out the usual COVID Zoom guidelines. In view of the current restrictions that COVID-19 has placed on everybody, including the Fire Authority, this meeting of the Audit, Governance and Ethics Committee will take place using Zoom this morning. To ensure the meeting goes as smoothly as possible, there are several points and guidelines that I would like to run through with members and for the benefit of any members of the public that are watching the live stream of this meeting. Once the meeting begins, attendees will be placed onto mute unless invited to speak by the chair of the meeting. If members wish to speak or have a question, please indicate this by sending a message using the chat function. This will be monitored, and at the end of each item, there will be an opportunity for members to speak in turn. The open section of a Fire Authority meeting will be video recorded and live streamed onto the Avon Fire Authority Avon Fire and Rescue Service YouTube channel. By attending a meeting via Zoom, attendees are agreeing for their images and voice recording to be posted. Due to the reduction in the length of the meetings, it is intended that for reports provided for informational noting, a full discussion will not take place. Please keep any mobile phones on mute to avoid interruptions and interference with sound, as I do that myself because I'd forgotten to do that, excuse me. Public access statements will not be able to be presented at the meeting by the author, but will be received by members and published along with the minutes of the meeting. There is a time limit of 30 minutes for public access. No public access statement, though, however, has been received for this meeting. If I need to call a short comfort break, I will say how long that break will be for the information of attendees and those watching. The recording and live stream will remain running, but video images should be turned off, as well as microphones remaining muted. On return from the break, video images should be switched back on. I'm not planning on, we'll see how things go, but I'm not planning on calling a comfort break anyway. Okay. I'd like now just to go around the members to get people to introduce themselves to anybody who might be watching. If I go through and call on you in the order I see you on my screen here. So Trevor, would you like to introduce yourself?
Good morning, I'm Councillor Trevor Jones. I'm one of the 2 members of South Gloucestershire Council representing West Winterbourne.
Thank you. I should obviously introduce myself as well, sorry. I'm Councillor Paul Goggin, representing Hartcliffe and Withywood Ward in Bristol City Council. Robert, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, good morning. I'm Robert Payne. I'm from North Somerset Council, and I'm a councillor for Weston-super-Mare Central.
Thank you. And Richard?
Good morning, Richard Tucker, also North Somerset Council, Weston-super-Mare Milton Ward.
Thank you. Neil?
Good morning, Councillor Neil Butters, Bath and North East Somerset Council, representing Bath Haven South, which is a large rural ward between Bath and Radstock.
Thank you. I'll just go around the various officers as well now. Emma, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, good morning. I'm Emma Bowen. I'm the Democratic Services Assistant at Avon Fire and Rescue.
Thank you. And Emma's ably assisting me here in the conference room, managing the meeting and letting me know who's wanting to speak or putting their hands up. Jane.
Good morning. I'm Jane Williams-Locke and I'm the Corporate Assurance Manager.
Thank you, Jane. Amanda?
Good morning, I'm Amanda Brown. I'm the clerk to Avon Fire Authority.
Thank you. And Angie?
Good morning, I'm Angie Feeney. I'm the Director of Corporate Services here at Avon Fire and Rescue.
Thank you. And Sam?
Good morning, my name's Sam Wilcock and I'll be taking your minutes today.
Thank you. Ian?
Good morning, I'm Ian Howes, partner from Deloitte, the external auditors.
Thank you. And Simon?
Good morning, members. Good morning, everybody. Simon Shilton, one of the Assistant Chief Fire Officers.
Thank you. And Steve?
Good morning, Steve Imrie, one of the Assistant Chiefs.
Thank you, Steve. And Mark?
Mark Jones, partner with RSM Internal Auditors.
Thank you. And Danielle?
Good morning, I'm Danielle Neal, the Treasurer for Avon Fire Authority.
And Vicky?
Morning all, Vicky Gould, Internal Audit Manager with RSM.
Okay, thank you all for introducing yourselves. I'm pleased to note that we have now heard from HMIC FRS about their inspection dates for Avon Fire and Rescue Service. And I note that Avon Fire and Rescue Service are providing documents and a self-assessment form by 29th of March this year. Inspection activity is due to start week commencing the 10th of May within a 6-week window, and their round 2 report is due for publication in winter 2021. I have a bit of an update as well. I'd like to inform you that the Treasury Management Strategy and Reserve Strategy will be presented at the June meeting of the Fire Authority. The medium-term financial plan and capital strategy will be presented at the next meeting on the 24th of March. The strategy is being reviewed with Bristol City Council, who provide the Fire Authority's Treasury Management Services to us. Danielle, did you have anything you wanted to add on that one?
Thank you, Chair. No, it was just to provide that overview to members today, because in the Financial Improvement Programme, which is on the agenda later, I'd originally scheduled for the full strategies to go to the Fire Authority in March. However, having reviewed the amount of work involved in undertaking those 4 financial strategies, I've agreed with the Fire Authority Chair and the Chief Exec that we would split it. So the 2 big strategies are going to our March Fire Authority meeting, and the 2 smaller supporting strategies will be going in June. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Danielle. For voting today, for any votes, I will basically, because we're on Zoom, I will ask any members if they are voting against. I will ask any members if they wish to abstain, and then I will be assuming that if you haven't spoken up on either of those categories, that you are voting for. So we'll move on to agenda items.
Chair, can I just mention one
Sorry,
other
Amanda.
thing you wanted to mention, which is the PERDA period, which starts on Monday.
Apologies, yeah, I'd completely forgotten about that. How could I? Yeah, I'd just like to say to all members that due to the current stage of the electoral cycle, I think we're all facing an election coming up in May. So this may or may not be any of our last appearances on the Fire Authority and on the AGEC committee. So I'd like to just basically thank everyone for their work whilst I've been chair, and wish you all, whichever political colour you are, good luck. And
Chair, it's Ed Bristol who has elections.
Is it not yourself, Neil?
No.
Oh, okay. Apologies.
Only the PCC.
And the PCC. Okay. Well,
And
there
the
you go. Sorry, Neil?
And the Mayor.
Yes.
Mayor.
And Wecker. That's right. Okay, well, the PERDA starts on March the 22nd, which is Monday. Oh, apologies. I thought everybody was all in, but there you go. Okay. I'll move on then to agenda item 5, which is the minutes of our last meeting on the 25th of January. I believe there is one slight amendment to that. Angie, did you have an amendment?
Yes, I did. Thank you, Chair. On page 8, under Financial Improvement Programme update, on the 3rd paragraph, sort of towards the middle with the sentence that begins, the business case to support the new structure and resource would soon be finalised. Just for clarification, that's the business case to support the remainder of the structure and resource being finalised, and members would be updated at their next meeting. And that wording is inserted because it's was the remainder of the business case, because of course that the head of finance had already been approved by board. So it's just to enter after to support is the remainder of.
Fabulous. Thank you very much, Angie. Do any members have any other amendments or corrections for the minutes? No. Can I move that we ask them as an accurate representation? Can I have a seconder, please? Neil, brilliant. Okay, thank you. And I will. Does anybody wish to vote against that? No. Okay, we'll pass those as an accurate record, and we'll move on to agenda item 6, which is public access. We haven't received any public access statements before the deadline for this meeting. So moving straight on to agenda item 7, it is this is for the planning report for the 2020-2021 external audit. And Ian, I believe you're presenting on this one.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, members. Just run you through some highlights of the report and then take any questions if I may. So the report sets out our plan for the year 2021 and the audit of the accounts of that year. We've set out an executive summary, which basically says we've done an initial risk assessment to understand the risks in respect of our audit, and they are set out in this report. We've determined our materiality level, which is 1.3 million for this year, which is just up by 100,000 on the previous year based on additional expenditure of the authority, because it's the same percentage being applied to determine materiality as in the previous year. Our work covers 3 key areas: the financial statements, work on value for money, and the annual governance statement. In terms of the financial statements, we've identified 3 significant risk areas, which are the areas where we will spend most of our audit effort and time. Those are the completeness of accruals and creditors at the year end, and the cut-off of expenditure. So just making sure expenditure is recorded in the right year. We kind of assume that there's an opportunity for you to manipulate that position at the year end, and therefore we check around that and make sure that it is done correctly. We look at management override of controls, which is assumed to be a risk in any audit, and that looks at things like journal controls. And because the pension liabilities of both schemes are significant numbers, then we spend quite a bit of time looking at the assumptions that underpin those. And because those liabilities are quite sensitive to various changes in assumption, we do look at that in detail and use specialists for that work. So we set out further details on those there. On page 28 of the pack, we set out the new requirements of AGN 03, which stands for Auditor Guidance Note 03, which is the new value for money requirements and the work that we need to do there. And you will see in the fee section that this is a new amount of work, an additional work required of auditors, and we've added additional fee for that. It covers 3 key areas: financial sustainability, governance, and improving economy and efficiency and effectiveness. And we've shared an information request with officers to start our work in that area. We will be following up where you've got to with HMI, CFRS and their inspections, and useful to have the update from the chair of the timing of the revisit of that, although we will be focusing on the work that you've done as an authority to address the points raised previously. We outlined the Redmond review, which is looking at the external audit market, and we'll update you when there's any further implementation news on that from MHCLG. There are various revisions to auditing standards in relation to ISA 540 and accounting estimates, but that's for your information. and then some information on how we maintain quality and what we've done in response to the COVID-19 outbreak, but I think that's fairly self-explanatory. Final thing is the fees. You'll see a fee table on page 43 of the pack, which sets out the fees for the previous year. They're yet to be fully agreed by PSAA, so although the authority has agreed those fees, we have to then get final approval of those from PSAA. We're nearly there. I had a final request for further information from them this morning, and hopefully that will be agreed. In terms of 2021, we've proposed additional fees for the use of specialists in relation to that pension fund and the 2 pension funds that you have, and an additional fee in respect of value for money work. We are estimating that at the moment, but that is at the very bottom end of the estimate that we have. And our estimates range from 5,000 to up to 20,000 for this additional work. And that is consistent with other audit firms. Because in the past, we've done quite a lot of work on VFM because of the issues that have been addressed in the past, we felt that the additional work in respect of the fire authority here would be less than in other bodies where we perhaps haven't had significant risks to address in the past. Hence, we have gone with the lowest estimate that we have for the fees on that. I think that's it from me. I'm happy to take questions on that.
Thank you, Ian. Members, do you have any questions for Ian on what he's just presented? Questions or comments? Don.
Just one very brief thing, and I'm not expecting Ian to give me an answer, but in due course, I would like to know what his thoughts are on the consultation that's being done on auditing of public accounts, because I was somewhat mystified by this idea that smaller companies can do part of it, but not all of it. It'll just be useful in the fullness of time when he's had a chance to digest what's going on. If he could give us a brief paper at a further meeting on what he thinks the implications are for us in terms of the audit process moving forward. So no need to give an answer today, Ian, but just really sort of factual statement would be useful when you know a bit more.
Thanks, Don. Ian, did you want to say anything on that?
No, happy to respond to that as and when things become clear.
Thank you very much. Danielle, you had a point.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, as members will recall, we've agreed the majority of the fees that Ian has outlined in his table, and helpfully Ian has separated the additional £5,000 that he's just referred to in terms of the value for money work. Ian, my question would be, do you have any sense of the likely timescale of the work programme on value for money being finalised by the National Audit Office?
We understand the final arrangements will be confirmed by the end of March, but obviously we're carrying on because most of it is understood to be final. It's just that there's a few issues around the timeline in terms of reporting that are yet to be confirmed. But otherwise, we believe the work programme is now pretty well there, and we are carrying on with you to progress that.
Okay, so the AJAC chair, I think we've just got an issue here, haven't we, of just making sure we've all got a clear audit trail for AJAC. So I think at the point in time, Ian, when that work's confirmed, could you then formally email me as Treasurer to confirm the £5,000 and the bases on which you've based that on? And I think then, just looking at the audit chair, if I may send that out to the chair and members of this committee so that we have this formal ratification that I believe we would need.
Thank you, Danielle. Ian?
Yes, I'm happy to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Ian, on the value for money and the changes in that area, just because it has been a point of discussion in the past, could you confirm the understanding of the main changes? And my understanding of that is that it will now be a commentary around value for money rather than actually having an overall conclusion, which is and therefore sort of an opinion, which is what we've had in the past. Can you just confirm your understanding of that just for members?
Yes, Angie, you've got that spot on. That's the main difference, is that rather than having a sort of audit opinion or conclusion as we had in the past, it'll be now more of a narrative report. The exact form of that and the timing of that is the bit that we're still trying to confirm with the NAO. But yes, we would expect to spend more time talking about the arrangements that are in place and describing those and commenting on them rather than just an opinion.
That's helpful. Thank you, Ian.
Thank you, Angie. Thank you, Ian. Does anybody else have any comments or queries on that? Can't see anybody's hands raised. Oh, sorry. Neil.
Thanks, Chair. Yes, I'm impressed by the amount of good news there seems to be around at the moment compared with some meetings we attended in the past. But I was struck by I'm not sure if it's an iceberg or not, but I'm just wondering if there's any significance under the water, as it were, anything we should be looking out for that is not immediately apparent. Tricky question, I know, but
thank you, Councillor. But no, not intended the iceberg to cause you any concern. It has been difficult undertaking audits in a remote environment. There is no doubt about that. You will be aware that many local authorities are still not in a position of having signed accounts for 1920. That's because it has been incredibly difficult to complete those audits. And in the corporate world, you will note a large number of companies are late in filing their company accounts as well, just because of the difficulties in completing accounts and then auditing them in a remote environment. So yes, we've learned a lot over the last year of doing that, but it still does take longer and is more complicated than in the previous environment. But that's the only thing that I would bring to your attention with.
Thank you. So all is well, we hope.
Just expect the unexpected, Neil.
Yeah.
And thank you very much for that, Ian. Does anybody else have any other comments or queries on that one? No, that's okay. Amanda, can I just check? I don't have the front sheet for agenda item 7. The decision that we're being asked to make here, I've got it for decision and information.
Sorry, I was on mute. No, there isn't a cover report for this report. So it's simply to note and approve the planning report presented by the external auditors.
Okay, yeah, thanks very much, Amanda. So we shall move on then to agenda item 8, which is the internal audit update and reports from RSM. I can see that both Mark and Vicky are here. I'm not too sure who will be presenting on this one, but if I can ask either of you.
Thank you, Chair. I'll take you through the first 2 reports and then pass over to Mark for the plan. So firstly is our progress report. So setting out that since the last meeting, we've issued 1 final and 1 draft audit report. And actually since sending this report in for papers, we've completed all of the work for the year and debriefed the final 2 report reviews this week. So we have delivered before year end all of the audit work required. Section 3 sets out some changes. Most of them you will already be aware of from previous reports, some timing changes, but the main ones are the transformation audits pushed back to next year, which we'll see in next year's plan. And we've undertaken the risk management report earlier. So we've undertaken that in the last few weeks. We've also attached our fire service risk register analysis, which is some bedtime reading for members. And I note that the risk register hasn't been presented to this meeting, but may be useful next time it is, just for you to do some compare and contrast work there. So I'll take any questions on the progress report.
Thanks, Vicky. Do we have any questions on that first report? No, I can't see any hands raised, so we can move on to the second one, please.
Thank you. Okay, so this is our workforce planning reports. This was a high-level review of the control framework in the 3 areas of workforce planning, so succession planning, demand management, and talent management. And we've given a reasonable assurance opinion here and raised 2 medium and 2 low actions, or agreed actions with management. So the first one is around policy and making sure that new succession planning policies are finalised and aligned to other policies. I think it's worth noting that when we started this audit, obviously the service had already identified some weaknesses around succession planning, so it already had processes that they were improving and programmes in place to improve that area, but still some work to do on the corporate side. The next action was around the sharing of information and data. I think obviously members will be aware of potential IT infrastructure weaknesses that are being addressed through the transformation programme, but this was around kind of sharing of being able to share pension information so that teams can use it to make decisions effectively. Again, from our DICE work that we did before, we flagged the need to update the promotion policy to reflect some DICE aspects. And then also, whilst since reporting this report, we have been informed of an update presented to the Fire Authority, but we just identified that there was a bit more reporting that could be done through to the People and Culture Committee around succession planning. So I'll take any questions on this report.
Thank you, Vicky. I didn't know if Simon or Angie wanted to add anything to that. I'll take that. Sorry, Simon, carry on.
Yeah, sorry, I think it's a fair assessment. We've still got a little bit of work that we're undertaking with regards to succession planning and getting the accuracy in place. I think that the positive bit is we're making positive moves towards continuing improvement in that area.
Thank you, Simon. Do we have any questions from members to Vicky on that one? No? Oh, sorry, Councillor Butters.
Sorry, thank you. Yes, it seems very thorough, Chair, so grateful for that. The thought just went through my mind. Are there any sort of subsidiary targets in mind in terms of promoting gender equality and racial diversity, etc.?
Simon.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor. We don't have any specific targets, Neil. What we do there is quite a lot of upfront positive action to try and encourage applicants from underrepresented groups, both entering into the service and also when we advertise other roles across the service. We have over 80 partners that we share adverts with and try to reach out all areas of our community as much as reasonably possible. Of course, we still have a lot more to do internally. Our development pathways, which I presented at the recent Member Development Day, will help to do that. We are investing quite heavily within our workforce for those that are underrepresented. Things like the Stepping Up programme, which is a Bristol City programme, regards to tapping into talent from BAME employees and disabled employees. And also there's some partnership work that we're undertaking with the police called the Springboard programme, which is around against investing in leadership for gender.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Simon. Does anybody else have any other questions or points they wanted to raise on that one? No? Sorry, Angie.
Thank you. Vicky, it's just in your report in the summary, you do say that the updates conclude there's nothing high risk in the reports to date and anticipated likely to have a negative impact on RSM's annual report and head of audit opinion. You've now obviously completed, you were saying, a number of ones. So is that position the same with reference to likely assurance rating?
Oh, I think Mark's about to talk. So.
Yeah. Shall I pick that one up. Yeah, I think we can confirm that that position still exists, Angela.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Angie. Does anybody else have any questions before we move on to Mark with the final report? No? Okay, Mark, over to you.
Right, so the final report that we got for you is our proposed plan for 2021-22. So an important paper for the committee, because this will obviously influence a significant proportion of your agenda for the coming year as these audit reports flow through. So we've engaged with management to discuss potential internal audit areas for internal audit coverage. And what you'll see if you look at the key section, which is section 2 of the report, which is page 89 of the pack, we've linked the proposed internal audits to your key strategic risks. So you can see that we're looking at key risks from your risk register, and we'll be providing assurance on the key controls that you've got in place to mitigate those risks. So it's very much risk-driven internal audit plan. So that section sets out the various audits. I won't talk you through all of them, but it sets out at a very high level what we would cover, the audit approach we would adopt, when we would do it, but most importantly, when the report is anticipated to flow through to this committee for consideration. So just a couple of points to note on this, on the list of audits in that section. So Vicky's mentioned that the transformation audit, so that one was in the current year's plan, but we've carried that forward to 21-22. So that's why that's in there. And she also mentioned the risk management audit that we've included in this plan, just for formality's sake in terms of recording it in a plan, because that has actually already been delivered in the current financial year. So we've just done that one. So that one is already done and will be reported to your next meeting. A couple of other things just to note. There's a contingency element in the plan for some potential work that we might do around pensions. We will bring that back to the committee for approval in a subsequent progress report, should that work be needed. So we've just got that in there as a contingency at the moment. Just to draw to your attention that we've got some work on key financial controls in there. That's done on a cyclical basis. So the audit proposed for 21-22 is on asset management and the general ledger, following our unusual cyclical approach. We've got our follow-up in the plan, which is where we every year formally follow up the agreed actions and provide assurance to the committee that they have or have not been implemented. So that's an annual audit that we do for you. And finally, just to draw to your attention, Appendix B to the report, which is on page 93 of the pack. Here we set out the work that we've done in the previous 3 years, the levels of assurance that we've given, just so you can see a bit of historical context about what we've audited in the past and hence what we're proposing to cover in 21-22. So I'll pause at that point. I think the key thing for the audit committee to consider is, are you happy that the plan will give you the assurances that you need in the coming year? Are there other areas where you think it would be worthwhile including it in the plan, perhaps swapping something out of this proposed plan to cover something that you may feel is requires assurance in the current year? I'll pause at that point and take any questions.
Thank you, Mark. Just regarding the risk management, you said that would be coming to our next AGEC meeting, but in the appendix it says it's coming in July 2021. Our next meeting is actually on the 21st of May. Would that be would it be coming to that one or to the July one? Do you know?
Yeah, I mean that work has been done, and so the proposal should come to that May meeting.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you very much for that. Do I have questions from members? Don.
Thanks as ever for a very comprehensive report from all of your team, Mark and Vicky. Just one question really around the fleet management. I think that I would be remiss not to comment the fact we are going to be actually spending quite a lot of money on new fleet and appliances over the next year or so. So I would very much like that to be incorporated within that process. I know there's a fleet management piece in there, but the fact we have actually managed to secure the funding and buy some new appliances, I think it'd be very useful to make sure that you feel you're comfortable with the process we've used, the speed of delivery and the procurement processes around there. Thank you.
Yeah, we can ensure that process is built into the audit scope when we come to flesh out that audit scope in more detail.
Lovely, thank you.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Mark. Danielle, you had a point.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just to note, Mark, with the newly appointed Head of Finance, I need to sit down as Treasurer with the Head of Finance and Vicky, just to discuss and scope the proposed financial audit in November. So what I'd like to propose is that myself and the Head of Finance meet with Vicky in April and just scope out the key themes for that financial audit. And then if there's any update, to feed that back to the next AJAC committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Danielle. And Mark, you're happy with that?
Yeah, well, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay. Do we have any other questions, comments or queries? No. Okay, well, the recommendations, we are asked to note the internal audit progress report for 2020-2021 and risk registered benchmarking report at Appendix 1. We are asked to consider the workforce planning internal audit report at Appendix 2 and review the recommended management action plans, and to consider and agree the internal audit plan for 2021-2022 at Appendix 3. Amanda.
For that third recommendation, we could add the word subject to the amendment that the risk management report be presented to the AJAC in May, because that's different to what's in the report.
Thank you, Amanda. Yeah, that would be good rather than July. Okay. I would like to deal with this as one decision, but unless anybody has an objection to that, I would move that we do note the internal audit progress report, review the recommended actions and consider and agree the internal audit plan. Trevor, I have a second from you. Do any members wish to vote against that? I can't see any. Do any members wish to abstain? No, I will mark that as passed unanimously then. Thank you very much. Moving on to agenda item 9. This one is for information only, and it is the Finance Improvement Programme update, and Danielle will be presenting on this one, please.
Thank you, Chair. I think as AJAC members know, this is our dearly loved financial improvement programme, and as outlined in the report, I'm pleased to say that really good progress has been made throughout this plan. The concept behind this was to focus on outstanding and urgent issues, and I think over the last 10 months we've developed and strengthened those and made significant improvements to financial controls, to financial reporting. We've actioned and cleared all of the outstanding internal audit recommendations, of which there were several. And we've also now put in place a fit-for-purpose finance department structure. So good progress throughout, and I trust that will give AJAC members some confidence moving forward. We've agreed with this plan that as the majority of actions have now been embedded and delivered, that the newly appointed Head of Finance, excuse me, will incorporate these items now as business as usual from the 1st of April. I've agreed with the AJAC Chair that for completeness, because some of the items in March are still work in progress, that I will bring back a final report to clear those items at the next AJAC report. And as noted earlier by the AJAC Chair, I have developed with the Head of Finance the 4-year financial plan and 3-year capital programme, which are being presented to our Fire Authority in March. And as we've agreed with the Fire Authority Chair, I will then present the Treasury Management Strategy and the Reserve Strategy to the Fire Authority in June. So I think, as we noted last time, we've now scored the highest internal audit rating, which was very, very pleasing. And we'd completed all of the final accounts working with Ian and his team. So we very much look forward to the next set of final accounts and to continuing that close relationship and appropriate working relationship with our external auditors on that. Just very, very quickly, devolved budgets, as noted previously, we are looking at a transitional period to bring devolved budgets in. And that will be brought in shadow form for the first 6 months of 2021-22. And we will then review that in September 2021, so that for the following year we have fully devolved budgets. That is a big programme. There have been some delays on that due to some delays on recruiting to the new finance structure. Just to advise members, we have advertised for the financial accountant role, which is a pertinent role within the new structure, and the finance business partner. And unfortunately, there will be some delays on recruitment to both of those posts. And the Director of Corporate Services, Angie, and the Head of Finance are currently looking at options to recruit to those two positions. So overall, very, very good progress. Extremely pleased that we've been able to develop and strengthen it to this point. And I've now pretty much handed over to the Head of Finance, who will take that forward on behalf of the Fire Authority. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Daniel, and thanks for yours and your team's work on this. You know, as you say, the progress made is great. Do I have any questions or queries from members to Danielle? Neil.
Thank you, Chair. Well, clearly congratulations are in order, so well done for all the hard and comprehensive work. I was just wondering what the overall cost between the two systems might be. Are we talking about broadly equilibrium, or is one more costly than the other?
Thank you, Councillor. Really good question. At this stage, we haven't changed our systems, so there has been no financial cost to the Fire Authority. The focus of my work over the last 10 months has been to work with the existing team, and we've brought in 2 finance interims to help us with this transformational work. So there's been no change to the system. We use Bristol City Council's financial ledger system as part of our approved SLA, and we will continue to do that for the next 2 financial years. So there's no system cost. The only cost that we've had is the cost of the 2 interim accountants, one of which finished because she then got recruited to the new Head of Finance, which has been amazing news for all of us. And the other interim accountant will finish in May this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Danielle. Is that okay, Neil?
Yeah, fine. Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Don.
Thanks, Danielle. I guess the only question I've got is in terms of the devolved budgets is, I think the committee would like to know what you thought was success in terms of then transitioning that to the full process rather than in a shadow format.
Yes, thank you. I mean, this is a big transformation project for the Fire Authority, and it's really about, at the moment, the majority of budgets are centralised. So they don't go out to the individual directors or managers. And that's quite an outdated model that doesn't provide as much flexibility as I would like as the new treasurer. So I guess the model is saying, out of those total centralised budgets, what can we reasonably devolve to our chief exec, to our fire authority chair, and to each of our directors, and then their senior managers. So this is a big project, and as I noted before, because the new structure hasn't yet been recruited to, it does cause a lot of additional work for the finance team, having undertaken these processes a few times before. So what I've agreed with the chief exec and the chair and the director group is that we'll do it in shadow format for the first 6 months, which will allow us to test, to work with the directors and the senior leadership team to get us to a position by September where we all feel a bit more confident. And I think within that journey, Chair, it will also allow the finance team, and I'm happy to support, in terms of meeting up on a monthly basis to support and train the directors and senior leaders who will be involved in this, so they feel confident and comfortable with the budgets that have been devolved. So I think it's a really good way of testing, of supporting, so that by September we all feel a bit more confident to move into the next financial year where we have fully devolved budgets.
Thanks, Danielle. Don, does that answer your query? Brilliant, thank you. Okay, do we have any other queries, comments, or no? Okay, so that item was just for information. Thank you very much for that, Danielle. Moving on to item 10, which is the date of the next meeting. As mentioned earlier, the date of the next meeting will be the 21st of May, 2021. At 10:30 a.m. I'd like to move that is the date of our next meeting. Do I have a seconder for that, please? Thank you, Neil. That's brilliant. Okay. Moving on to agenda item 11, we are now moved to exclude the press and public. To resolve that the public be excluded from the meeting during the following items of business on the grounds that they contain exempt information pursuant to Schedule 12A, Part 1 of the Local Government Act 1972, and that in accordance with Schedule 12A, Part 2, Paragraph 10 of the Local Government Act 1972, the public interest in maintaining the exemption outweighs the public interest in disclosing the information. So I'd like to move that we now exclude the press and public for the final item. Do I have a seconder for that, please? Thank you, Don. That's brilliant. Okay, what we will